All right, today's lesson is going to be on the area and circumference of a circle. You should be taking notes, copying down the examples. We're going to go through a variety of examples. The first thing you should write down is this definition about the radius compared to the diameter. All right, the radius is that distance from the center to the circle to the outside of the circle. So the example of a radius is right here in this circle given to you on this sheet. And it's just this line that goes from the center to the of the circle to the outside of the circle. So it's like taking half the distance of a circle. Now the diameter is always that distance across the circle. So the diameter would be like this blue line, still going through the center, but going all the way across the circle. And again, those two distances are compared by being exactly half of each other. So the radius is exactly half of the diameter. In our example, I said the diameter might be 20 feet, so the radius would then be 10. In example 1, finding the circumference. First, you need to know the formula for circumference. So circumference is always equal to 2 times pi times the radius. All right, or the short way of writing it is c equals 2 pi r. Now pi is always equal to 3.14. You can use the pi button on your calculator, which won't round it. If you're not sure and not comfortable with using that, you can use the value of 3.14. Now for our example, we have a circle with a radius of 12. So this line does represent our radius. It's only halfway across the circle. So our radius is going to be 12. So given our equation is that c circumference equals 2 times pi times our radius, which is given to us as 12 inches. All right, so now we have our equation filled out. All we have to do next is put our equation into our calculator. So again, it's 2 times pi times 12. And you should get a decimal answer of somewhere around 75.4. Now, if we didn't want to round this and we wanted to leave it with pi as part of our answer, we could just multiply the 2 and the 12 together. And then write pi after it. So we would get an answer of 24 pi. 24 pi is more of an exact answer. We don't have to round that. We do have the symbol pi in our answer, whereas our first answer was rounded in the tenths place, and it ends up equaling a decimal. It doesn't matter which way you do it. Both answers are perfectly fine. Okay, in example 2, again, we're finding the circumference. So we're using the equation c equals 2 pi times radius. However, this time, if you notice, we don't have a radius. What we do have, though, is a diameter. We talked about in the first slide how a diameter is exactly twice as big as the radius, or the radius is half of the diameter. So in order to get the radius, our r, we do need to take 16 and divide it by 2. So r is going to be equal to 8 feet. Now we can take our 8 feet, we can plug it into our equation. Circumference equals 2 pi times 8. And once we have that, we can plug that answer into our calculator. As a decimal answer, we end up getting 50.3. That's rounded. Or again, we could have an answer of 16 pi if we wanted to leave pi as part of our answer. So that's how you find the circumference of a circle. Let's look at the next example. All right, in this example, we're using a completely different equation because we are looking for the area of a circle. And the area is that shaded area, the green area inside the circle. So for our equation for area, we do have pi times the radius squared, or to the second power. So in this case, we have to look to see if we have the radius. We do. The radius is this 20. So we would just take the 20, start with our pi, and then multiply pi by 20 squared. All right, so at this point, we can just plug this into our calculator. I know that 20 squared is equal to 400, so I could write 400 pi, and this is in meters squared. Area is always in squared units, and that would be a perfectly fine answer. Now, if you wanted it as a decimal, you would have to take your 400 and times it by pi, and you would get a decimal answer of 1,256.6. Both answers are fine. Some problems will ask you to leave it in that pi form, and some will ask you to leave it as a decimal. All right, example 4 is also finding the area of the circle. This time, however, we're not given a diagram of the circle. We are just given the words diameter equals 40 feet. So we could transfer this into a picture. We could draw our circle, label the diameter. The diameter is the line that goes across the circle through the center and is at 40 feet. But really what we need to solve this is not the diameter, we need the radius. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our diameter, we're going to cut it in half, or divide it by 2 like we did last time, to get 20 feet. All right, 20 feet is our radius. So now we can use our equation. Area equals pi times 20 squared. And if you notice, we ended up getting the same answer as last time. So we ended up with the exact same answer. As a decimal, I'm just going to use decimals this time. It's going to be 1,256.6 feet squared. So that is our answer. You could leave it as pi, but as a decimal, we got about 1,256.6. All right. Now I'm going to have you try a few of these problems on your own. So take about 5 minutes. You'll want to stop the video at this point and try examples 1, 2, and 3. Try them on your own. See if you can come up with the answer. Notice that number 3 asks for both the area and the circumference of the circle. So stop the video now. Okay, hopefully you got these 3 answers. I wrote them in 2 forms for the most part. you can use a decimal, you can leave pi in, but you should have got roughly these answers. If you did not get these answers, please maybe share your answer with someone else. Maybe they can figure out what you did wrong. All right, there's two more examples that we're going to look at. All right, both of these still use area and circumference. However, they're going to be used a little bit differently. All right, in example 5, it says, finding the diameter given the area. So this time we're going to actually find the diameter of the circle, and we're going to be given an area. The problem says if the area equals 100 pi feet, then what is the diameter? Well, let's write down our area formula. So area equals pi times radius squared. And the problem tells us that area is equal to 100 pi. So instead of writing A, I'm going to take this 100 pi and I'm going to plug it in to the A, which stands for the area. And I'm going to rewrite the rest of the equation. So I took the original area formula. It was A equals pi times radius squared. I got rid of the A. I put the 100 pi feet into the equation. All right, now what we can do is we can solve this. We have an equation of 100 pi equals pi times radius squared. All right, and since I want to solve for r, I'm going to have to get rid of everything that's by the r. I'm going to divide by pi on both sides. Well, you'll notice when you do that, that pi cancels. Not only does it cancel by the r, it also cancels by the 100. Because pi over pi just equals 1. And 1 times 100 is just 100. So 100 equals r squared. And if you can remember from previous lessons, whenever we have a squared value, in order to get rid of that squared value, we have to square root both sides. So our r ends up equaling 10 because the square root of 100 is 10. If you're not sure how to find that, just put it in your calculator. But 10 times 10 does equal 100, so the square root of 100 is 10. Now that's not our answer, but it is going to help us get our answer. Our question was, if you reread it, what is the diameter? Well, if our r is 10, we know that the diameter is always double that value. So the diameter would be 10 times 2. So the diameter is going to be 20. And so that is our answer. 20 ends up being our final answer. All right, let's take a look at another example. Similar example, only this time we're going to be finding the diameter given their circumference. Last time we had the area, this time the circumference. We're going to do the same thing that we did in the previous problem, though. We're going to write our circumference formula. So C equals 2 pi r. We're going to go ahead and replace the C part with our 40 pi. So we're going to take our 40 pi, we're going to plug it in where the C goes, which is going to give us 40 pi equals 2 pi times r. Now we can solve this equation. We can start by getting rid of every value that's by r. Both the 2 and the pi can be divided at the same time. So you'll notice on the right side by the r, both the 2 and the pi's cancel. On the left side, by the 40, we have the pi's cancel, and we're left with 40 over 2 equals r. All right, well, 40 over 2 is the same thing as saying 40 divided by 2. So r is really equal to 20. All right, however, this is not our final answer. Our question says, what is the diameter? Well, we know the diameter is twice the size of the radius. So if the radius is 20, the diameter is twice that amount. The diameter must be 40. So D equals 40 is our final answer. All right, if you need to re-see or listen to any of the examples, go ahead and go back and look those over once again. If not, hopefully you understood the 6 examples and can do this on your assignment.